With this one, we're asked to find what the end behavior is, and we have to write this in a very specific notation. The first thing that I usually do on this one is I go ahead and I graph it. And so I just plug this one into my calculator right here. This way I can kind of get a good rough feel for what the graph is going to look like. A couple things that we want to be aware of here. This one is an odd numbered degree, and it's negative, my leading coefficient. Okay, my leading coefficient's negative, odd numbered degree. That means it's going to end up like this. We're going to go upward in this direction, and we're going to go downward in this direction over here. Okay, so now what I want to do is bring in my notation that we actually have to do on this one. So I want to discuss as x gets larger, as x approaches infinity. So as my x values here, they go left to right, as x gets larger and approaches infinity, what happens to my y values? Well, if I look here, as x gets bigger, it looks like y gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, we don't call it y in this case. We call it h of x. So as x approaches infinity, my h of x gets smaller or approaches negative infinity. Now then, we're going to kind of go this direction now. If x gets smaller, or if x approaches negative infinity, so the smaller and smaller and smaller it gets, what happens to my y value or my h of x value? Looks like it gets larger. So as x approaches negative infinity, my h of x approaches infinity. It gets larger. Let's look at just a little bit separate one here. Again, my exponent on this one is an odd degree. That means it's an odd number. My largest exponent is odd. And my leading coefficient on this particular one is positive. That means the graph's going to look something like this, okay? So again, I'm going to bring this in. As x gets larger, as x approaches infinity, my g of x in this case gets larger as well. G of x approaches infinity. And as x gets smaller, as x approaches negative infinity, my g of x gets smaller or approaches negative infinity as well.